episode of the Wildcat Media Coaches Podcast. I'm Mr. Millard, and I'm joined by Derek Kopak, who is wait, are you a junior this year?
Junior, yes.
Junior this year. I got another year. Look at that, 2 years. As our co-host. And we're also joined by our first guest and Coach Zach Lyon of the varsity team. Thanks, Coach, for coming out today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So the Coaches Podcast is designed to get a chance to hear from coaches and their insights on what's happened recently, the past week or so, even kind of get insight into the team and to the players so we can learn a little bit more about the student athletes that are working really hard to represent Exeter High School across various sports and disciplines. For this first one, we're taking a look at, with football, you guys have a lot of time to build up to that first game. Camp opens up when does camp start in the summer for you guys?
August 7th is the first official day.
August 7th. And then you start out with, you have 2 days then, right? You start out that way, right away, you go with hitting right away, or how does that, what's your schedule usually look like at the start?
So as you roll into August 7th, you'll have 2 days of helmets, then you'll have your 2 days in just uppers, and then you'll have now your full go. So feeding into camp is a lot like June, July, and then as you start moving along, you get into the 2 days of what a real training camp is.
And so, we're trying to think of time, too. I could go on for days about all this type of stuff, too. But, as camp gets started, gets rolling, I'm sure you guys have expectations. I'm sure you guys have, players that are on the radar that you're thinking of, okay, we're looking for a breakout here. We're looking for them to step up here. And you and the coaches talk about that type of stuff. So, as camp progressed and before it got to time where you guys pick coaches or captains, what were some of the things that some of the players that stood out, or what were some of the things that you stood out to you just as the team as a whole, too?
I guess I don't really go in with expectations into the summer. I just want to see what we get. So our main staple is just effort. So if we can build effort through June, July, August, we're in a pretty good spot because we can build on that throughout the year. I think this team and every team that we're going to have at Oxford is going to be built for a season of success, not just for game one. So while we want to win game one, we're going to continually get better until week 9, so it's just a get better attitude every rep, every play, every game, every practice. So, but during summer, there was a few guys that kind of jumped off the screen watching film from early June and then into July and into August. Dean Rice is one of them that wasn't really sure what kind of player he was. And then by the end of August, we kind of knew that this guy was a player. So Holden Jones, another guy that's a senior who's battled, trying to find a role in this team for the last few years. And then now he's our starting middle linebacker. So those are the kind of guys you like to see because they embody everything we want as a group, their effort, their integrity, their accountability, and then they go on the field and they start making plays, and it makes you happy as a coach.
That's a good thing to hear, yeah. I had one question. I was wondering, first off, who are the captains this year for the football team? I'm unfamiliar with them.
We have Sean Wilson, Brody Moore, and Jay Cady.
Okay. What went into that decision? What made you want to pick them as the captains for this team? What do they represent as strong captains?
So before we vote for captains, we remind the team that's not a popularity contest, but it's a team vote. So
right.
We give them a piece of paper, they put 3 names down, and we tally the votes, and those 3 names were by far the top of the list of, I guess, who their peers thought were leaders.
All right, so good leaders. Yeah, that would make sense.
For sure.
As the summer broke, you guys got ready for that, that first week for the first game, which I know was the most exciting. I saw some of the guys beforehand, and you could just see that little attitude change, they were ready to go out there and start, compete against somebody else besides each other. Because it's, we hit our brothers enough, it's time to go out and let's go with somebody else, right? So, leading up for that first game, there was a lot of anticipation for it. It was a big game. Eisenhower is traditionally really a difficult opponent. They're usually very, very good. And so some quick observations, and I'd love to hear your insights on things that you saw. I don't know, Derek, if you were at the game and got to see it.
I was on vacation. I didn't get to come.
Oh, okay.
I was disappointed too.
So one thing that stood out right away to me was the defensive effort. I think that's something that when you talk about get better attitude and building that attitude, that was something that last year that was there. I think that as the year went on, it got stronger and stronger, and I think it started out this year very strong. They had a couple of breaks here and there. There were a couple of penalties against them, which helped. But I think that was really a positive to see that effort on defense, because defense is always the less appealing thing a lot of times unless you're really into it. And I love watching good defense, so I noticed that. So they had a really good effort there. There were some mistakes, and I think that's something that happens early, that can kind of catch up with you, that you can work out, things you can work out. So, what were some of the things that really you stood out to you in terms of their execution, in terms of the game plan, and it's maybe even some players that really jumped off the page that you may have expected or may not have expected?
I think the guys were definitely ready to hit a different color jersey. We have been going pretty hard for a long time, it felt like. And so leading up to that, our first week of training camp was by far the best I've had here with a group of guys. Second week, we were off a little bit. I think we were riding a high of a good week. And then we started to dial back in for game day. But there's no way to simulate a season starting. Like, it's hard to snap your fingers and be like, this is real now. So now that we've had 1 week in the bag, I think now all the guys feel like we got to go. We get 9 units guaranteed, 9 games, and we got to go take at least 5, 6 of them, right? But we want more than that. We're just going to start with 1 right now. We're going to start with Oak Park this week. But looking at last week, I thought it was one of those games where we outplayed them, we out-physicaled them. Our team played to what we should be, effort. But we just had a couple mistakes along the way, right? So
first day jitters, like getting back into it, just a couple mixes up like that.
Yeah, not even major mistakes, but it's always the small things that add up. So it's going downfield here, or it's missed assignment just barely here.
Yeah.
But just little things that add up from first day jitters, first time going live ball with real referees are actually keeping score now. But June Jones always told me, he was my college coach at SMU, he always said there's 4 or 5 plays that make a football game, and you got to win that battle of those 4 or 5. You got to be ready. So you never know when those 4 or 5 are coming. Everything else in between is just kind of football, right? Just the mundane 4 or 5 yards here, 10 yards here. But then there's those 4 or 5 that are big shot plays or big touchdowns or a blocked field goal or whatever it might be, right? So you got to make sure those 4 or 5 ways are swinging your way and you're ready to go when those times come. And I think we missed our opportunities for those 4 or 5. But like you said, Mr. Millar, there's film now that we were able to watch, correct the mistakes, because there's a lot of good areas. Our defense played phenomenal. Right, I think we held them to under 100 yards before the fourth quarter. I actually know that.
Yeah.
So if you take away the last drive they had, which defense is on the field for a while there, our offense is going to steadily improve. We have a sophomore kind of leading the helms at quarterback right now, who's kind of learning how to shift gears from motions and shifts, but he's doing a really good job. Our offense is not easy for a quarterback, but he'll get it. He can do some really good things with his feet. He can throw the ball well. And obviously we have good runners in Luke Johnson and Chuck McConey, and I like our offensive line up front too. So we have a lot to work with. So I feel confident in this group to go on to get better every week and do some good things this year.
Yeah, when you say that about the quarterback play, I know that was a question going into the year, like, what are we going to do? We have a couple of guys that can do some different things. And what was his name again? I kind of forgot.
Jack Hendricks.
Yeah, Jack. So I could see, like, watching him, like, some of the practices and then watching him in that first game, you could see, like, he's got a good feel for where he is. He's got a good feel for the pocket. When he gets outside, he seems like he's at his best when he's able to move around a little bit. But what I noticed in the game, when the game was 11, Eisenhower had some towers on that line. They had some really big boys on that line to see over. And I think that it looked like he was having some kind of adjustment to that, because, like, if he's his first year varsity quarterback, that's a big step up from the other levels. So, like, to see all of a sudden these giants in the middle, like they did, Derek, they had some tall dudes on that line.
And he's a shorter guy as well, too.
Yeah, so harder. I think that's
he's not very tall.
You got to adjust to that. You got to adjust that. But Zach knows, like, Zach played with a short quarterback in the NFL, so, like, he was one of the greatest ever. So he kind of he can talk him through that, I think, a little bit.
Yeah,
I would say it's probably about the same, because Drew was probably 5'11", and the old lineman you're playing with are 6'7", so
yeah.
It was probably about the same. But I asked Jack that early on this summer. I said, how do you handle throwing in a pocket when you can't see over it? He's like, I've just always made it work. Right. So this is what he knows.
Yeah.
He can find windows between instead of over. And if he does move, he'll move out of the pocket and escape. But he does a good job of not just taking off.
Yeah.
He'll run out, reset, look, and then he'll take off. So he gives you that big play opportunity downfield, and the escapability on third down, because you're not always going to be able to pick up a blitz. You're not always going to be able to pick up something on third down. But if you have a guy that can run and go get it for you,
yeah, that little extra
big
play. Yeah, especially though these kids get coached up so much at quarterback now everywhere, it feels like, and so it's like they there's a different level of confidence, I feel like, that they bring at younger ages now than it used to be.
For sure.
And maybe that's what I thought. It's like, he'll adjust because it's his first game. Like, he'll adjust. This is his first trial at it, and so he'll get some look at it. So I think there were some positives I definitely saw from there. The offense is always hard to pick up, like you say.
It is, and I think as a coach, you only have so much time. In Michigan, you don't have spring ball, whereas every other state you have spring ball, and then so you get the 14 days before your first game where you're actually going in pads total. So you're hoping to have all this stuff in, and you got to dial it back a little bit just to make sure you have it in. But sometimes with the quarterback, you can be too much robotic with them and try to make them follow their reads exactly, where you really want them to know where their first read is, and then where are my answers if I get in trouble, right? Because at the end of the day, you want a quarterback that can make plays with his feet and with his arm to make plays. So you don't want him overthinking out there and crippling his arm, right? So this week's been more back to just, here's the fundamentals of the play. Now go do you. I just want you to be the athlete that you are. So he's been throwing the ball a lot better this week, and I can tell he's having more fun with it.
And I should have had you, if you didn't hear yesterday, we could look at some clips too. I kind of wanted to do that with you. So I'll show you some of the tapes that we had from the game. But there was something I noticed in the trends too early on. It seems like you guys had a idea like we're going to come out and tempo them early, and for the offense. And that first possession seemed to move pretty well. And then as the game will wear on, then it kind of is like, okay, now we got to go react with what they're doing and kind of change them off a little bit. So when you look back at that game, and then you were trying to game plan for Oak Park, of course, different opponent. But you can start with yourselves. You can't control what they do. You control what you do. So what types of things are you looking at for the week in terms of like the team and like, we really want to focus on these areas this week to improve because of what we did last week, but also because of our opponent this week?
I think from the film on Saturday, we always come in, we buzz the film, we watch, and we get a lift in. And then Monday, our first attack was just going after the problem issues, like the issues we had. So whether it be special teams or something in a play, because these are staples that we're going to have all year. So just getting those cleaned up. And sometimes it's something you didn't spend enough time on. So like that's on me as a coach sometimes, right? Sure. So just re-hitting it. Maybe there was a little confusion on just the fundamentals of this play. So we go back through those things. You just want to make sure 1 week stays 1 week and doesn't become 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So brand new week here. We cleaned up where the errors were, and we'll be ready to roll
here. So we've got 8 more games on the schedule.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. Do we know when do we find out the last game, the Ford Field game? When do we find out the opponent? Because the kids don't know. Like I asked them, like I don't know we're playing.
I think we would know after week 6.
Oh, okay.
Week 5 or week 6. So probably going to be U of D at Ford Field. Okay. If it's not U of D, it'll be Divine Child. And if it's not Divine Child, so if Lumen Christi wins, then we'll have U of D at home.
Okay. And how is that game determined? Like, how are they determining that game? Because I was really confused about it. And of course, when you ask like the kids that, they're like, it's whoever wins this. I don't like
U of D winning that division.
Oh, it's a division.
Yeah.
Okay. Got you. Okay. So, which division is that one?
You got me. This is a BAM interview.
Gotcha.
You got to bring BAM Grotto on here. He'll tell you every stat from.
That's actually not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. You could bring him up on that stuff. That'd be kind of fun. When did you guys find out about that game?
We were looking for a week 9 opponent.
Okay.
And there's just nothing available. I mean, we hit every team in the state. Saline, Brighton, Rockford. We were trying to hit every team to try to find a week 9. Because you want to play a good team. You want to play Division 1, Division 2. You start moving lower than that, and you start losing playoff points.
Right.
So you get 60 points for Division 1, 55 Division 2, and it just keeps going down. So you want to play a good team, and you want to play a team that's going to win some football games because you get multiplier points from them.
Gotcha.
So with the point system now, it doesn't help you playing a Division 4, 5, 6 team.
Yeah, there's no pat statting there. It's like you'd rather win a 1-point game against a good team than a 50-point win against a team that's not the same level.
For sure.
Got you. Okay.
So then we Tony has connections to the Catholic League.
Okay.
And so we got UOD on the hook for Ford Field.
That's a whole other question I have for AD or for Tony now in the AD departments. Like, how in the world is it possible with all the schools that there's no opponents? Like, it feels like everyone should be playing the same the same week. So, that's kind of wild.
A lot of teams have to go out of state.
Do they really?
Look at King this first week; they went out of state. Chippewa Valley is playing a school from Ontario week 9.
Really?
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So there's travel restrictions, but.
Yeah.
I know they just changed it. I can't exactly remember what the distance is, but yeah, they have to go to Ontario to play a game. Well, it happens a lot with Chip, like let's say Chippewa Valley or good OAA or MAC Red teams. Mm-hmm. They'll try to find a week 9.
Okay.
Teams don't want to play them. Like, no thanks, we're good.
Yeah.
They're just not going to play them. So Chip has a hard time finding people.
Okay. Well, that's the price of being a good solid program for 20 odd years that they've been. Yeah. We played them I thought we played them pretty tough. Was that last year we played them?
We're 1-1 with them.
Yeah. No, we've played really tough with them. It's like, Derek, I don't know how many games you've been to in the last few years. I feel like I've been to quite a decent number of them, and I always joke about the size, like joke about it, because I see the kids every day, and like we've got muscular kids, we've got built kids, but we don't have like the giant like bulldozer kids that are going to like roll everybody on the line. You just know like we don't have like a Jake Long kid. So that's one thing I've noticed is a theme, like you mentioned, like the effort and the work to get better, like that builds a program, and over the few years, so like hearing it from somebody else, like it's noticeable. Like I see it. And
we do have some freshmen coming up the pipipeline that are pretty big. I'm sure you've seen them.
You've seen that, yeah. Well, do you remember last year? Like they had that scrimmage here, and I saw you when I mentioned it, and I'll never forget your face for picking up the kids, and I said something to you, and your eyes got really big. Like, have you seen the size of some of those kids?
Massive. I remember Chip coming to us 2 years ago, 2021, and we're down on the field warming up, and I counted we had 40 players exactly. Okay. I looked over at their sideline, and they probably had 50 out there warming up. And then about 10 minutes later, their linemen came pouring out of that top building. It was like 35 more. I think on game day they had 75, 80 kids, and we had 40.
Oh, my God.
Easy.
So then we go out and beat them with a 2-point conversion, and it feels pretty good, right? 'Cause you don't need all that. You just need a good team.
No,
you need a team that's together.
Right, and that's the culture, and that's what you've been working towards really strongly. And I think that, from my perspective, I feel I'm an outsider, but I'm kind of an insider because I'm in the building, so I see the kids, and I got a different feel for it. Yep. But I think for the community to see that, I'm pretty sure I got to feel that's noticeable, because, it'd be really easy to not be in these games. It'd be really easy to get behind, but they don't, and they won't, because that's how they're brought up and that's how they learn, and they know. And the guys are much better. They're stronger willed. They're very strong willed. Yep. And that's awesome. Like you what you're doing, so is working. Like it is working. And I tell the kids all the time, like high school is high school. It's not about the wins and losses. Yeah, you want to win 100%. Definitely you do. But sometimes like it's not going to work out that way. And it's about, are you putting in your best effort?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if they do the right things, we work hard in practice, and they work hard. This group is phenomenal. They have great senior leadership. And it's not just the captains, right? There's role players in the locker room, on the field, that step up and do their job. But if you do the right things, wins will come.
Do you have any thoughts about this week, Derek? Anything, questions that you had? Anything you want to kind of...
You're going to be at the game.
Yeah, you're going to be at the game this week?
I should be this week. This week I should be there.
No more vacations. It's football season.
I gotta stay around now. Yeah, I should be there this week cheering on. Going to see a win.
There you go.
All right, we'll get some follow-up in here. All right, well, I think for now, we're kind of at where we were going to get with this one, but I really appreciate the time. And I think that the work that you guys have been putting in, is this year 4 now, or is this year 5?
This will be year 4.
Year 4.
Yep.
So 4 years of building up this program, it's working.
This is my first group of freshmen through
Is it the
seniors
first group
now.
This year?
I had Brody and all those guys were freshmen when I took over, and now they're seniors, so it's extra special for me.
All right, man. It's awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off here. I appreciate the time. All right. Well, thanks, Coach Line. Thanks, my co-host, Eric. And hopefully next time you hear one of these coaches' podcasts, the kids will be leading the way. That's the goal of the class, and it's going to be good. So looking forward to it.